Welcome back now for the news in detail. We start from Sudan, where the ruling military and opposition alliance have agreed to form a joint transition council to rule the country for 3 years. The power-sharing formula was agreed after 2 days of negotiations. Both sides have agreed to periodically rotate the controls of the council. More in this report.
Thousands of people of all ages took to the streets chanting victory slogans as news of the agreement broke. Young men beat drums, people honked their car horns in rhythm, and women waved Sudanese flags. African Union envoy Mohammed Hassan Labat said the new council has agreed upon an independent investigation into recent violence. They have also decided to postpone the establishment of a legislative council.
The two sides have also agreed on establishing a sovereign council by rotation between the military and civilians for a period of 3 years or slightly more.
Deputy Head of the Military Council, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, thanked the AU and Ethiopian mediators for their efforts.
We also thank our brothers in the Forces for Freedom and Change for the good spirit. This agreement will be comprehensive and will also reach up to ambitions of the Sudanese people and its pure revolution.
Opposition leader Omar al-Digair congratulated Sudan's people.
This agreement opens the way for the formation of the institutions of the Transitional Authority, and we hope that this is the beginning of a new era.
Sudan has been torn by political unrest since pro-democracy protesters forced President Omar al-Bashir in April.
Moving on, Russia's President Vladimir Putin says militants and terrorists are migrating from Syria into Libya, posing a serious threat. Speaking in Rome alongside Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte, Putin blamed NATO for the destruction and chaos in Tripoli. Putin says a European warplane had bombed Libya, but did not specify if he was referring to a recent airstrikes on a migrant center. He expressed willingness to work with the EU to promote dialogue with all parties in Libya. Calling for a ceasefire, Putin says urgent and comprehensive talks were needed to stop the bloodshed in Libya. Italy's Prime Minister Conte says the international community could broker negotiations for a ceasefire. The Saudi-led military coalition says it has intercepted more drones targeting the Jizan airport by Yemen's Houthi rebels. The rebels claim the unmanned aerial vehicles hit military targets at the airport, but coalition officials say the drones were shot down before they could inflict any damage. The attack on Jizan follows a series of Houthi drone and missile strikes on the nearby city of Abha last month. 1 person was killed and 47 were injured in the attacks. Iran has summoned Britain's ambassador to Tehran over the seizure of its oil tanker off Gibraltar. Iran's foreign minister says Britain's detention of the tanker could fuel tensions in the Gulf. British Royal Marines captured the tanker for allegedly carrying oil to Syria, violating European Union sanctions. The Spanish foreign minister says the vessel was held at the request of the United States. White House National Security Advisor John Bolton has welcomed Britain's seizure of the tanker. Bolton says the US will continue to prevent the Syrian and Iranian governments from profiting from the oil trade. The incident comes as the EU debates its response to Iran's plan to boost uranium enrichment beyond the limits set by the 2015 nuclear deal. President Donald Trump has hailed the U.S. military during a speech at a controversial Independence Day event. The Salute to America celebrations featured a flypast by the warplanes, a parade of tanks, and elaborate fireworks. Opponents have accused Trump of wasting money and politicizing the holiday amid his re-election campaign. Several U.S. media houses boycotted the event. Anti-Trump protesters burned American flags in front of the White House during the parade. Addressing an audience which had braved torrential rain, Trump claimed that the U.S. is now stronger than ever.
It is the spirit, daring and defiance, excellence and adventure, courage and confidence, loyalty and love that built this country into the most exceptional nation in the history of the world, and our nation is stronger today than it ever was before. It is its strongest now.
Moving on, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has said Italy can help restore Moscow's ties with the European Union. This comes as Putin met Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte in Rome in a bid to mend trade ties with Europe after they were hit by sanctions. President Putin says he sees no obstacle in improving relations with the European Union. He described the flow of militants from Syria into Libya as a major concern. Putin says Libya's belligerents should agree a ceasefire and open a political process. Earlier, he met Pope Francis a day before Ukraine's Catholic leaders are due at the Vatican. President Putin says he had substantive discussions with the Pope. In Britain, Prime Minister Theresa May has warned that a no-deal Brexit could jeopardize the solidarity of the United Kingdom. She called on her successor to make a priority of countering support for Scottish independence. During her final official visit to Scotland, May warned that First Minister Nicola Sturgeon could not be trusted to safeguard the Union. Britain's media says the Prime Minister's remarks were a coded warning to Boris Johnson, the frontrunner to become the next Prime Minister. Johnson says Britain must leave the EU on October 31st with or without an agreement.
Over the last 3 years, I've learned that while other parties can be relied on to work with the UK government in good faith to make devolution a success, an SNP Scottish government will only ever seek to further the agenda of separation.
Moving on, the prosecutor at the International Criminal Court has sought permission from judges to investigate crimes against the Rohingya people in Myanmar. Prosecutor Fateo Bensouda says 700,000 Rohingya people were deliberately forced out of Myanmar and pushed into Bangladesh. A United Nations fact-finding mission concluded last year that Myanmar's military carried out mass killings and gang rapes of Rohingya. The UN says over 80 Libyan migrants heading to Europe are feared dead after a boat capsized off the coast of Tunisia. 4 people were rescued from the inflatable vessel carrying 86 people. One of the 4 survivors later died in the hospital. The country is in the main departure point for migrants hoping to reach Europe. Moving on, Mexico has deployed troops on its border with Guatemala in a bid to prevent migration into the country. Soldiers have also been stationed at 61 migrants crossings in the southern state of Chiapas. The deployment is happening nearly a month after Mexico struck a deal with Washington to check the flow of migrants into the United States. Mexico has arrested 30 human traffickers since May to curb illegal migration. Germany's ruling CDU party has won the SPD coalition partners against opposing Ursula von der Leyen as European Commission President. The SPD says its European MEPs will vote against von der Leyen in mid-July. With their popularity at a record low, the SPD are under pressure from members to quit Chancellor Angela Merkel's coalition. SPD opposition forced Merkel to abstain from the vote that nominated the first woman to head the Commission. Many in Merkel's conservative blocs criticized the SPD for refusing to back the first German head the Commission in 60 years. In Indonesia, environmental campaigners have filed a lawsuit against President Joko Widodo and government officials over the worsening air quality in Jakarta. More in this report.
Jakarta is ranked among the 10 most polluted cities in the world. In recent weeks, pollution levels in the city have spiked to nearly 5 times the levels recommended internationally.
We are suing 7 parties, which are the Indonesian President, the Environment and Forestry Minister, the Interior Minister, the Health Minister, the Jakarta Governor, Banten Province Governor, and West Java Province Governor.
More than 1,000 people have signed the petition.
bicara soal optimis, harusnya optimis.
We are optimistic because having clean air is everyone's right. Right now, we have 31 people filing a lawsuit, but a group under a petition which had about 1,078 people's signatures means this lawsuit is also supported by more than 1,000 people who have already agreed that everything the government does should be based on scientific studies and should produce results felt by the community.
People are demanding the government to curb rising pollution in the city.
Now, residents of southwest China's Zhongxing municipality have revived an ancient embroidery skill to help alleviate poverty. More in this report. In the county of Wuxi, in Zhongxing municipality, China, local people have revived their ancient embroidery skills to help people find jobs. This unique handicraft, named after the river running through the county, is called Danning River Embroidery. The project, known for its flexibility, has proven to be a highly effective way to reduce poverty.
I think it's necessary to retain the original flavor of Danning River embroidery. It's crucial to evolve with time by absorbing new elements and catering to customers' needs. Only this way we can say that we have preserved the essence of this ancient handicraft.
Dang Lijuan used to work as a school teacher, but she quit to start her own business. In 2013, she began passing the ancient craft down onto the younger people. Official data shows that in Wuxi County, there are still more than 4,000 families living in poverty. Nationwide attempts to reduce poverty have carried out with the help of local authorities who prioritize tourism and cultural industries to boost local income. The handicraft brought in a turnover of 8.3 million yuan in 2018, an increase of over 60% compared with the previous year. Li Juan's embroidery business has benefited over 200 local families.
The biggest change is that my children do not get embarrassed at school anymore because they used to eat only 2 meals a day. But now, with the money I earn, they can afford 3 meals. I hope I can stay on the program for a longer time. Therefore, children will be hopeful about life if I get a steady income.
More job opportunities will be created, and the ancient embroidery skill will continue to provide a sustainable public good. More news coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back now. The annual RoboCup has kicked off in Sydney. The competition is aimed at promoting robotics and research into artificial intelligence.
More than 170 university and research teams from around the world are participating in the RoboCup. The event's goal is to field a robot soccer team that can beat humans by 2050.
Okay, so it's a competition that's been going for more than 20 years now, and the idea is that to provide a fun challenge for universities and researchers to develop new technology in robotics.
The robots participating this year have come a long way since the first RoboCup in 1997.
They changed quite a lot because we used to play on felt and now we play on like 8mm AstroTurf, so it's much harder to walk for the robots. We need much more robust walking algorithms.
The competition is a proficient way for students to enter the tech workforce.
Now in Burkina Faso, local toy company Mania is hoping local children will go for dolls with dark skin instead of European features. But sales are hindered by an uncertain security situation.
Blonde, blue-eyed Barbies have a challenger in Burkina Faso. Black dolls are being designed to connect local children with their culture. Buyers at the Ouagadougou International Arts and Craft Fair have responded well to the toys.
I see these beautiful dolls. Normally we always see European dolls. It is the first time I see something like it here, and I am happy. I want to buy some for my friends.
Mania founder Abibu Mare hopes business will pick up again. She wishes to keep supplying African children with dolls they can identify with.
African Union leaders have gathered in Niger to pave the way towards a continent-wide free trade agreement. African Union Commission Chief Musa Faki Mohammed has lauded the proposed African Continental Free Trade Area Accord. It says the goal is to create an integrated continent-wide market. The AFCTA aims to phase out all tariffs on commerce between African countries, which backers say could increase trade by more than a half. But skeptics fear a destructive impact for small manufacturers and family farms are fully open to imports. At present, only 16% of trade by African nations is with continental neighbors. Work has begun on the final section of a pipeline that will supply vast quantities of Russian natural gas to China. When it's completed in October 2020, the pipeline will provide China with 38 billion cubic meters of gas a year. The new pipeline will enhance natural gas supplies in northeast China and across the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei region. Rio de Janeiro's ex-governor Sergio Cabral has confessed to bribing the IAAF with $2 million to secure hosting rights for the 2016 Olympics. Cabral told a judge in Rio he paid the sum to the former Athletics Federation president to buy at least 9 votes. The jail governor made the revelations at a hearing requested by his defense team. He revealed that the main organizer of the bid, Arthur Nuzman, and the IAAF president Lemine Dakik are involved in this bribery. Cabral's court testimony is part of a plea bargain, which might lead to a reduction in the sentence. The IAAF president Dakik is already facing charges in Brazil and France. And now let's have a look at the weather around the globe. Well, that's all for now. For more news and updates, keep watching Indus News.